Hello and welcome to the CX Files podcast. I'm your host, Mark Hillary. Colson Hillier is the Chief Marketing Officer at Alorica, based in New Jersey, US. Alorica is a global customer experience company offering services to companies in many different industrial sectors and across many different global regions. They are the largest US-based customer experience expert with over 100,000 employees, and they have a quite astonishing growth rate of 273% on average over the past 3 years. Colson is recognized internationally as an expert on automation and digital transformation, so for this episode of the podcast, we focused on these fast-moving areas of CX. Okay, let's go straight to the interview. Okay, Colson, thanks for appearing on the podcast. The first thing I wanted to ask you was around automation. Everyone that we see that's designing customer experience at the moment is talking about automation and what it can achieve. But there's also a lot of disaster stories, where projects haven't been very well planned. So how would you define intelligent automation, and what are the key steps that you work on with your clients to make it work?
Sure. Thanks, Mark. I love the word that you use, plan. For us, intelligent automation is when we're able to automate the right task and exceed expectations of a customer. And unintelligent automation can really backfire and drive away engagement and repeat usage. I think we've all sort of been through experiences where you talk to or you engage with a chatbot, and the chatbot just continues to return nonsensical information, and eventually you just give up as opposed to trying to continue to make your way through their logic tree. And I think a biggest part of that is understanding how to plan and pick the right sort of targets for automation. And so we spend a lot of time with our clients planning, and then we move through a process that's about implementing a technology for automation, refining that, and repeating it. And if you can find the right use cases to focus on with automation, you can significantly de-risk the negative consequences of unexpected outcomes, and really focus on the things that will make a difference for your customers. So what we find a lot of times is that customers purchase technology, but really don't have the people in place to deploy it and integrate it, and don't do enough of a sort of focused job on trying to make sure that the processes which are automated are the ones that will have the greatest impact to the business at the lowest risk to impacting negatively CX. So it's that sort of time to value equation and making sure that you put the time up front to plan and recognize that it's not a technology solution by itself, but something that is sort of a combination of people and technology as you deploy, train, and refine all the processes that you may want to consider for automation.
Yeah, absolutely. That's interesting, because there's also one aspect that we often forget, and that's that the agents themselves are using technology in the contact center. So if we're ignoring the customer and the chatbots and the front end for the customer for a moment, how can these technologies improve the employee experience, which should naturally lead to an improved customer experience?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think at Alorica, we've been involved with our own sort of digital transformation over the past 18 months to 2 years, where we've really looked at where there are opportunities for us to deliver better quality service to our clients and use automation and technology as an enabler of our agents to achieve that. So it's touched almost every aspect of our business. And to your point, we're an employee-driven company with over 100,000 employees. We constantly are in a cycle of hiring, training, ensuring that we deliver the right quality, trying to maintain and retain a high-quality workforce. And so if you sort of follow that continuum, we've done a lot up front in order to automate some of the processes that are used to acquire great talent within our centers. So we use recruiting chatbots that go through a very structured set of questions and interviews with our agents. We feed a lot of the output from those chatbot interviews through AI-driven models that help us to determine whether or not the candidate is a good fit to the type of work and environment in which they'll operate. And then once they hit the floor, the typical frustrations for an agent are things like, I can't find the right information in order to resolve a customer's problem. Or I'm spending too much time on these low value repetitive tasks as opposed to actually dealing with the customer, data entry, things like that. And so, we've spent time up front to make sure that we utilize automation and AI to get the right candidates. And then once we have the agents in the seats, we spend a lot of time with building out knowledge bases that are proprietary and sort of span across information that we get from the customer, in terms of their training manuals or standard operating procedures, embedded knowledge. So the ability for agents as they sort of identify a way to resolve a customer issue to be able to contribute that to a knowledge base so it's accessible to the balance of our employees or agents that might face similar problems. And then we focused on a new model for training and ensuring that the agent feels that they have the information and the sort of skills to deal with certain types of customer interactions, by shifting training to more of a micro-learning environment where we can deliver tips, training modules, even little short videos that are delivered in the context of an agent's interaction. So rather than to think about a serial process with training rooms and multi-week training programs, which are important but not necessarily complete in addressing everything that changes during the course of an engagement with a client, we use more bite-sized, contextual, real-time triggers in order to map what the agent is going through to the resources that they need to resolve it. And then use tools like speech analytics in order to really inspect 100% of our calls and find out where the calls are that have opportunities. So where is their dead time? Where are we not getting the right disposition from the outcome that we expected? And by sorting through all that massive information to focus on the pain points of the agent and indirectly or directly how they impact the customer, we're able to provide much more comprehensive and focused quality assurance and training to our agents to make sure that we continue to deliver great service. So really all through that life cycle, from sort of recruiting to onboarding to servicing the customer, there's opportunities at every step of the way for us to utilize automation and digital tools to help enable the agent. And so it's a very good point that a happy agent is equal to a happy customer, and that's sort of a foundational principle for us.
Yeah, that sounds like there's a lot of innovation going on both for the employees and for the customers. And I know that you've got an innovation lab in Bangalore, but how does this work with your clients? Because, innovation itself needs a cultural shift. You have to be able to accept that some experiments are going to fail, and you need to sort of move on and fail fast. But if your clients expect innovation out of a box, we want it to work 100% of the time, then how do you evolve those kind of partnerships? And sort of how does it really work when you've got your client expecting you to innovate for them?
Yeah, and it's a dynamic that we're continuing to evolve. The Digital Center of Excellence that we stood up in India is a large team of highly competent engineers that are focused in the areas that enable a lot of the automation and digital processes that we're bringing to clients. So they've got expertise in big data, AI, automation, and systems integration. But they're more or less a factory, right? So they're a group of technologists that are building solutions that we can deploy in any one of our centers, whether that's in India or the Philippines, Latin America, United States, or on our customer's premise. And the engagement with the customer is typically led through our client solutions team or our customer experience team. And where those discussions start are really more in the sort of mindset of the customer journey and where there are opportunities in CX. Now that gets mapped into a recommendation or a plan that will sort of be some combination of humans and technology and process in order to deliver an end-to-end outcome. And when we engage with our clients around digital transformation, kind of back to the start of our discussion, a lot of it goes into planning and sort of recognizing that technology and digital transformation isn't a switch that you flip and you've reached some sort of outcome or panacea that you envisioned with technology. A lot of it is trying to figure out where to focus in terms of the right use case and find win-wins that get us started with the client. So these are typically more simplistic back office processes that we have a higher degree of confidence that we can execute because there's not as many moving parts or complexity to the transformation. And then we focus on sort of the structure of a win-win with our client. So with the mindset that not all digital transformation or transformation sort of efforts realize results in the first 30 days or 60 days, and that there's a sort of a refinement and iteration that allows these processes to achieve their potential. We set up structures that allow us to sort of invest in the concept and then share in the benefit with our clients. So it's sort of aligning our objectives to get to a win-win where the client doesn't feel that they've put all of their investments in one pot, and if it doesn't succeed, then we collectively have failed. And then, I think a lot of it is, just being transparent about, what we're working on, how it's sort of delivered an outcome, and what we think we can do in order to improve and continually sort of drive to stronger and stronger automation or higher CX scores, et cetera. So the DCOE, or the Digital Center of Excellence, is an important component of solutioning for our clients, but it requires this bridge between business outcomes and sort of objectives that you're trying to achieve and the technology that's there to achieve it. And one of the things that we found a lot of success with is that, kind of your point earlier, that there's shiny bright boxes that are about you can deploy technology out of a box, but the real trick in this is how you integrate that technology into your own systems and processes, how you train sort of a out-of-the-box platform to really deliver the sort of personalization and application to the types of processes that you're handling and CX that you're delivering. And so it's that aspect of taking technology and mapping it to the unique circumstances of our clients that the Digital Center of Excellence and our client solutions team works together to deliver. And just another point on that, I think it's important when deploying automation and digital transformation to not look at it solely as a technology-based exercise. That behind most automation and digital transformation technologies, there exists fallout. There's a need to utilize humans for training models and looking at how to improve the machine learning and the algorithms that are typically leveraged to generate a lot of the big data that underlies these systems. And so we've got this model that we use. It's kind of a seesaw that shows the balance of people and technology that allow our clients to sort of initiate their digital transformation with a fallback to humans to ensure that the customer experience is kept whole. And as we get more confidence and learnings, you can sort of see that seesaw become more and more automated as the systems become more intelligent and they've learned more, and there's less and less requirement for human interaction to manage some of the fallout training and support of the technology.
Yeah, I was going to ask you a bit more then about some of this shiny new technology, because over the last few years in this business, we've seen things like AI, machine learning, RPA, big data analytics. There's actually so many emerging technologies that are being used. And we're seeing a lot of innovation or digital transformation programs often designed around the technology that's available. But what are the other sort of factors that really drive digital transformation? I mean, is it things like customer expectations, customers expecting a different type of service?
Well, certainly. I think that, over the past 5 to 10 years, you've seen a new class of companies emerge that are digitally native. And the benefits of those types of platforms is that they scale very quickly. They are sort of built from the ground up around collecting and leveraging big data to deliver outcomes to customers that are transformational, right? So you just think about what Amazon has done to retail, or you think about what a Lyft has done to, the experience of trying to hail a cab on a street corner late at night in New York City. And that has become the expectations that customers have across their interactions with every company that they do business with. It's what we call liquid expectations. And so, the idea of highly personalized, highly effective service that meets me where I am and is delivered in context has become the expectation that customers have. And where digital native companies are focused is more on how they manage the fallout and exception cases to a lot of what they've built in a digitally native format. The vast majority of companies are trying to figure out how to take legacy systems and deliver an experience that's similar to the digital competition that they now face. And so that is where there's a tremendous opportunity to look at how to bring systems that integrate with legacy sort of processes and platforms, but deliver a digital experience that's akin to these digitally native platforms. And so, I think that if you take a combination of so many more touch points with a customer, right? And it started with, hey, I had a PC and a phone. Now it's become a much broader spectrum of these engagement points with customers, whether it's your home automation bot, your automobile, your wearables, your tablets, your television, and you have to thread these things together. This is really what's driving a lot of the complexity into the business that requires folks to step back and think about their end-to-end user experience as a whole, and then break that down into manageable initiatives that help to bring the level of service up to the new expectation of the Gen Z, Gen Y consumer. And it's a massive sea change, but it's enabled by a lot of really compelling and great technologies that are making it easier and easier for companies to achieve that sort of delivery in their customer experience.
Yeah, and so on that point, do you think then that digital transformation is not so much about the technology, but it's becoming essential for brands to deliver the experience that customers are expecting today?
Absolutely. I think you will see, and we've already seen, companies focused more and more on competing based on service. So the ability to manage customer expectations and deliver services in a way that is unique to your brand or to your product is increasingly becoming an important thought for the CMOs that I talk to. And to do that, it requires that they're rethinking the end-to-end service delivery. And one of the things that we've seen that we're really excited about is that the front office, the CMOs, the folks that are focused on revenue generation, customer experience officers, are connected more and more closely to the back office. And the back office has traditionally been, an expense-driven organization focused on things like AHT and average speed of answer and first call resolution and net promoter score, but not necessarily viewed as a listening post that should be informing the strategies and the product development and the marketing and the user experiences that are frequently defined by the front office. So if you think about some of the tools that we have now around the ability to share data across an enterprise, the ability to use mechanized processes in order to deliver personalization that's informed by the back office to the front office. So a customer had a negative experience in the past, how do you manage that in your marketing materials or your pricing decisions even? And this idea of looking at front office and back office collectively and bridging what has traditionally been a cost center to the profit centers of the organization is one of the biggest sort of outcomes that I think digital transformation can deliver. And we've seen that having a significant impact in a lot of the clients that we service.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, because you're really saying that those kind of verticals like sales, marketing, customer service, I mean, they either need to merge or at least be coordinated and working together.
That's right. And sometimes you see organizations that will say, I recognize this is a problem. Let's go hire a chief experience officer. But that's an organizational decision that needs the support of the infrastructure, the business processes, and the sort of mindset across an organization to start to think about how to deliver exceptional CX across the organization. So those are the types of clients that we're seeing most excited about some of the ability to deliver transformation and automation because they have the right mindset, but they really don't know where to start, which technologies are best to sort of leverage within their business, and don't have the experience on how this has been deployed across others in their industry or best practices, et cetera. And so, the ability to help clients through that transformation it's really exciting, and it's one that I think will continue to become more and more important as a competitive tool for companies as they're forced to deliver the service expectations of their customers, and that they desire to differentiate based on the service experiences they deliver.
Okay, that's great. And so then finally, I mean, what are you looking for in 2020? I mean, where should we be looking to see some real change in CX in the year ahead?
Yeah, it's a good question. And 2020 is sort of we're sort of working against a continuum. I think where we're driving to, and some of the things that are most exciting to me, are the ability to sort of shift the paradigm around customer experience from reactive to proactive. And by that, I mean, it's how you can understand your customer and the environment well enough to anticipate their needs. So if you think about how that can come together and support the customer delivering the right message, the right service at the right time, it's all enabled from some of the intelligence that customers have around consumers, the fact that they're increasingly connected at every point of their day, every point of their life cycle. And also that I think more and more experiences are being delivered as part of a ecosystem. So I don't typically go just to a single provider to get a service. It's a combination of delivery that is all part of a supply chain. Maybe we take an example like a lot of the streaming video services that have launched. There's a war going on right now to try to deliver the best streaming video content and experience and sort of collect that market share. But the streaming video service itself is only a component of the overall customer experience. So what are the other stakeholders? There are the devices that the content is consumed on, the networks that deliver the content, and then potentially some of the billing and support of the service itself. And so one of the big trends, I think, in addition to becoming proactive, is a movement towards knowledge management as opposed to call management. And so if you can connect that user experience across multiple different players in a delivery chain, in this case, it's the television, the streaming service, and the network provider, in order to take a customer's pain point or desired outcome or usability question and be able to troubleshoot that across the delivery chain, then you've really solved for a customer in a unique way versus the things we experience today, which is a warm handoff or a cold transfer or getting lost in a VRU environment. And I think that there's some underlying enablers that are really driving the ability to deliver that sort of an experience. Things like data storage and processing moving to the cloud, increasingly connected consumers, and the ability for a lot of these companies that operate in ecosystems to publish certain APIs that allow you to get the visibility and control over the user experience from a centralized place in a secure and sort of business-friendly relationship across the different constituents. So think about proactive versus reactive. Think about knowledge management versus call management, and some of the enablers that I think are maturing 2020 and will continue to mature and grow over time that can really make a difference.
Thanks for listening to the CX Files podcast. please take a moment to review the podcast because this helps other listeners to find it. And if you have any suggestions, then get in touch with me on Twitter or LinkedIn. I'm at Mark Hillary with 2 L's, or just search Google for Mark Hillary.